Hello and welcome to the D3 podcast. This is your host, Matt, joined as always by Sam, Kevin, and John. How's it going, boys?
It's going,
Surviving once again.
Surviving once again. That's great, Sam. That's great content. So I have a question for you guys. Recently, there's been a pretty famous basketball player who he got in a fight recently with a certain YouTube star, Nate Robinson against Jake Paul. So can you guys come up with a better matchup for me? Because as we have seen from that video, Jake Paul may have done a little bit more damage to Nate Robinson than he needed.
Hey man, yeah, that was just not fun. I don't think anyone watched that fight. I mean, I'd rather watch that Mike Tyson fight, which was also just like two old men going at it. That it was just flabs at that point. It's gross. Nate Robinson, stick to basketball. Let's just be real here, all right?
Not a fighter. Here's who I want to see fight. Here's who's almost guaranteed to fight this year. It will be James Johnson and Marcus Morris. The next time that the Clippers play the Dallas Mavericks, they will be duking it the fuck out as soon as Marcus Morris even looks at Luka Doncic wrong. That's why James Johnson is getting paid the big bucks. He's here to brawl and enforce.
I'd like to add also Montrezl Harrell to that bout if possible. Like three people fight. Like, I mean, if you're on the anti-Luka train, you got to add that, all right?
Yeah.
Did you guys ever watch that hockey movie that came out where they literally brought this one guy in, and his only job was to just rock people's shit and to get in fights?
That's what they're called in hockey, the goon.
Yeah, the goon. Yeah. I think that's what John is getting at right now. The Mavericks have a goon to protect Luka.
100% have a goon. They if they could, they would build a whole lineup of goons. It would be 4 goons and Luka, and 2 of them need to have a jump shot.
You just see Mark Cuban in the back sitting on a chair, just being like, "Protect my child."
Yeah.
Do it now. All right. Anyway.
Hold up. I want to see Pat Bev come out and rock someone this season. Someone random, like Andrew Wiggins. Just come
Andrew Wiggins. Don't hurt Andrew like that.
What are you doing to you, man?
Yo, there is no way Andrew Wiggins could fight. There's no chance in hell.
Exactly.
Wait. Do you think that KD could fight? How skinny he is? Would people get intimidated by him at all because of the height?
I bet he could build a lot of momentum with his slingshot arms. Just
he's got that reach, man. He's got that reach. Oh, good Lord. All right. Well, welcome into the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Why don't we get right on into the show? So, as we all know, last year, it was the whole entire finals was a little bit up in the air. We weren't entirely sure, actually, who was definitely going to be in the finals. Clearly, Lakers won, and I think we'd all have to really quickly just agree that the Lakers are probably going to win this year. Yeah,
I think they're definitely the favorite.
Yeah, in terms of this free agency, they did some serious damage. I mean, I know we kind of briefly mentioned it in the last episode, but the Marcus Gasol addition, as much as he is, quote unquote, maybe washed up, the guy was going to go overseas in terms of that. We know how Marcus Gasol can play. He does have somewhat of a defensive presence, even if it's just having a big size body. We don't want JaVale McGee in the paint, okay? JaVale McGee doesn't know what he's doing. Stick to YouTube, JaVale. He's doing much better career than in the NBA at this point. Dwight Howard was, as we were talking about, the goon role basically at that point. He wants to start fights with Jokic down the paint, and he did get to him in one game. But these guys are too skinny. What we need is some solid size down the paint, someone that can work the post. He had the nice Euro hook as well. Marcus was a perfect addition for this team in terms of scoring, defense, and I think more importantly, playmaking ability. That guy has some eyes in the back of his head, and he knows what's up. He knows how to get the ball right to LeBron James. So this is a perfect fit for them.
Yeah, if there's one thing we learned from the Raptors championship year, it's that the thickest team wins out. And we saw Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, the father, and Marcus all on one lineup, absolutely out-thicking anyone that came in their path. And that's what the Lakers are doing here. They're saying, we tried to be long and it worked fine. Now we're going to get wide.
Hey,
Oh my
it's
God.
looking good. It's looking good. They're looking.
It is looking
That's for sure.
good. I'm absolutely going to give that to you. It definitely is looking good. But going back to that tall, go ahead, John.
No, I just wanted to make sure. So I wrote some really great copy for this segment that I think we should say out loud. So I'm just going to read it real quick, and then we can get to the party. It said, "Hark, all ye who be so bold, buck at the otherworldly terror of the 2020-2021 Los Angeles Lakers lineup." And I feel like in post, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add like thunder sound effects there and like some like screams.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a Ghost of Christmas Past in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
future and whatnot. Yeah, absolutely.
Wait.
We're gonna.
You're
get
saying
into that
adding some
Christmas
thunder.
season.
Are we saying like Terrence Ferguson, Andre Robertson, or
I'm sure maybe like Trevor Ariza. Or
we see you. Yo, are we just getting a new season of Game of Zones? Is that what we're doing? Bringing it back? Is that what we're doing here? I don't know.
Yeah, we're absolutely bringing that back. So we're going a little bit away from that wide instead of the tall. Let's go into the tall. And speaking of tall, let's join the Clippers because that team has turned into a little bit of a dumpster fire as of lately. Nick Batum versus Lou Williams. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I would want to do whatever I can to keep Lou Williams. Nonetheless, reportedly, he is on the trading block. Kevin, why don't you give me a team that could use Lou the most?
Anyone? And Lou Williams is a fucking monster of a six man. I'm a hype man for Lou Will, and thank God he's getting out of the LA Clippers. I think. I think there's a lot of teams that could use him, and just teams that need a little bit stronger of a bench. Someone like maybe even like someone like the Nuggets, where we saw in the playoffs their starting lineup was really good and pretty scary, but their bench, like Jeremy Grant, was kind of their carry off the bench, which was questionable. But you could point out half of the teams in this league that could use a deep bench. I think he might even be a good fit for the Spurs. Sam,
Stop it.
I think he plays pretty fundamental basketball, and I think he could be a good fit in that lineup. I think there's a lot of teams, and again, any team that needs any depth of a bench at all, Spurs need anyone they can get. Just saying.
Hey Sam, would you like to rebuttal that really quickly?
I will. First off, you disrespected my man Nick Batum, not over here. First off,
that's
butchering names.
My bad.
A French boy.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about him a little later, but guys washed up. I don't want him on a team anymore. Go overseas, play in France. Man played 22 games. Clearly not wanted. If you're not wanted on the Charlotte Hornets, no one wants you. Okay, it's the Charlotte Hornets, ladies and gentlemen. We don't want you here at this point. But talking about my Spurs, the last thing we need, Kevin, is another guard. Okay, we don't need another guard. Trey Jones, who's another guard. We have 7 people on this roster who are listed as a guard. We do not need more guards at this point. But Lou Williams, in terms of NBA basketball, can we all agree he only plays offense, right? That's only he's done. He's Trey Young, just very old at this point.
That's why he's a great 6-man, because when you're going off the bench, you don't want to like lack in scoring. You want to actually like not fall back, because that's what you see most of the time. As soon as the starters go onto and you switch with the bench players and whatnot, you see the scoring obviously go down a bunch. But when you have a player like Lou Williams on your team, that scoring doesn't really stop.
Yeah, but it's not on either side, because then the other team will also score because Lou Will can't play defense.
That's what we saw with the Clippers in the playoffs. It was just like Lou Will and Montrezl Harrell just giving up bucket after bucket.
John, I do have 2 questions for you. One, how much of a slap in the face would it be if Lou ended up just somehow, I know it's nearly impossible, but if Lou somehow went to the Lakers, how much of a slap in the face would that be? And then your second question would be, do you think Lou Williams is needed most in the East right now? And what team would need him the most?
I think that Lou Williams on the Lakers, he's been a Laker before. It would be a lot of fun for Montrezl Harrell because they have a lot of chemistry. I don't think it would happen. They'd have to trade. There's just no way that they're making a trade with the LA Clippers.
Sure. No, that's not happening.
I think the thing to consider is like, if you're the Clippers, they just like, we saw them fall apart in the playoffs. Lou Williams was not like particularly effective. He's at the end of the day, he's like he's like a better Jamal Crawford. Like he's he's still able to like score reliably, but like he's not scoring efficiently, and he's just kind of like getting a lot of like fun ISO buckets and taking like some kind of sometimes silly shots. Like he's a really good player off your bench. I think that they could get better value for him in places like, I don't know. They probably need, like, the Nick Batum signing says that they're desperate for wing depth, like desperate. Like they signed. Obviously, I think that he's become like a little overhated, Nick Batum, because like he just was massively overpaid, like massively overpaid. I think that he's still like going to be an effective player off the bench. He's not going to do a lot for you, but like he's going to be a really good role player for them, I think.
Sure. Yeah.
In the East, sure. I think Lou could be like well suited for the East, maybe somewhere like Philadelphia. He could be a good fit on the Sixers. I don't know who they're giving up.
That'd be a hard sell for the. I mean, I'm sure they would want him.
If I'm the Clippers, I'm trading Lou Williams for a legitimate point guard. Is like. Yeah. Because they just don't have one. They have like Patrick Beverly, who is a player that you put him out on the floor and you say, "Sick him, Pat," and then like he does that however long you need him to do it. Yeah, and fair. Then like nothing else.
And I think along those lines, if you think of a good point guard, I would trade with Portland. And the person I'm getting is Anthony Simons. I think this guy does have an actual chance. I think the Clippers do want someone that's a little bit more experienced, obviously, but I think someone, if you want like an actual true point guard that doesn't like to start like hockey fights, in the middle of the game, I think Anthony Simons, very humble kid. I mean, what's better to train under like Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum? Like it's pretty solid backcourt at that point, and I think that would be a perfect fit. And I think Portland would rather just have someone that can produce off the bench because that's something they never had, right? Yes. They got Rocco with the trade, which was a solid move, but. Don't forget they got Enes Kanter as well, and
I can't
forget lacking in terms of just pure scoring ability off the bench. So I think, let's send Lou Will to Portland. Let's get him a chip, man. This guy deserves a ring, I think, but let's just don't give him the ball. Okay, that's all I'm just saying.
He just right. Lou Williams isn't gonna like change anything drastically for any team. I saw rumors that he could go to the Warriors. That was like one of the rumors. And I think that's fine. They probably need that scoring off the bench, but it's like, I don't think that makes them much more of a contender than they are at this point, depending on what they have to give up to.
Absolutely. So really quickly, and then we're going to move on. I'm going to just shout out a couple team names, and I just want to hear a quick yes or no if you think that Lou Williams would fit really well with them. Let's go with the Indiana Pacers.
No.
Yeah, I don't see why.
Dallas Mavericks.
Yes. I'd say yes. I'd say yes. They need late game. They need another scoring option at the end of games.
Yeah.
That Luka can't carry everyone. Luka can't score 80 points a game.
He could sure try, but all right. Then I'm going to throw out one last team, and I think this is the team that I'm going to do two teams. These two teams probably would benefit the most from having Lou. Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Absolutely.
You already fumbled the bag with Bogdan, so,
Yeah.
I don't know how they get him. I don't know who they have to give, but yes, that'd be great.
All right, last team, Atlanta Hawks.
No.
Yeah, I actually agree. I think no.
Stop it, Kevin. Stop.
No, because Atlanta already has a good bench now. They got Gallo coming off the bench with Rondo and
they got a lot of people. They got a pretty good deep roster now.
Yeah, they're like kind of interesting. One thing I will also throw out, the the Boston Celtics, who now, apparently, according to Shams Charania, have a trade exception available because of a sign and trade involving the Hornets and Gordon Hayward.
Very good. Very good.
So they actually
I
may
like
potentially have a little space to make something like that happen.
That'd be fun for me. I would love to see that.
I think that's actually a much better fit with Boston. I think Boston, that's something they're missing is that
Exactly.
What they're missing with that team is really weird because they should never have these moments. These teams are like built on players that can carry and they can never effectively carry. Maybe it's just not enough experience, but I just don't think that's how these guys play anymore. It's not like how we got spoiled with that documentary with Jordan. The way that guys compose themselves was just like real fuck you attitude. They're not friends. All the guys in the NBA are friends, which is cool. Don't get me wrong. I like that like brotherhood at that point, but when you're playing the game, I'm not exchanging jerseys with you at the end. Like, fuck you. Like, this is mine. We're gonna beat you. That's how we're gonna roll. So, I think
totally
definitely bring that kind of attitude. That's what they're missing, really.
I was gonna say, last episode we were talking about how the Celtics were missing one piece, and the more that I think about it, the more I just love the idea of Lou being a sixth man on Celtics because their bench is one of their biggest problems, in my opinion.
The Celtics have plenty of like good defensive guys too. Like they have space to add someone like Lou.
Absolutely, sure. They really do. So moving on, going off of what John was saying about the Hawks and Gallo, John, why don't you kind of go a little bit more in depth with how you feel about Gallo coming off the bench on the Hawks?
I think like if you're the Atlanta Hawks, you're like, oh, like that's a fucking steal. Like you're like, this is incredible. I have Danilo Gallinari, who's a guy who can probably still put up 20 points a game, coming off my bench, who's a really smart player. Like that's an easy 6 man of the year candidate if he stays in that role, which I get why he would, because they have kind of like a clogged lineup at forward right now with guys like John Collins and like Cam Reddish and like all the guys that they need to like give minutes to because they're invested in these guys. Like, so I get why he's coming off the bench. It just feels like it's a weird choice for him because he said at the beginning of free agency, he was like, I want to go to a contender, basically. That's what he said. He's like, I don't have that many years left. I've made a lot of money. I want to go to a contender. And then he goes to the Hawks where he's going to come off the bench for a team that's going to be like in the playoffs, but not like contending for anything serious. I have a feeling that the money they offered him was probably it just had to be like much more than what anyone else was willing to give. It was either like the money or the guaranteed years, like because it's kind of like a bizarre role if that's really how they're intending to use him. Like he's still definitely a starting quality player. If he's able to commit to coming off the bench, that gives them a really fucking good bench. Like so that's great for them. It's just it feels odd.
Kevin, with this move for Gallo and not just Gallo, but many other moves that the Hawks have been making this offseason, do you really think that the Hawks have much of a chance in getting, I'll just say like maybe a 4th seed playoff spot, 3rd seed?
I think 4th or 3rd seed might be a little high. I think 6th seed is what I'm kind of estimating right now. Initially, I'm wondering if part of the reason Gallo went there, I'm curious if he knows something we don't. If the GM was talking to him and he's like, hey, yo, like I know last year we weren't that good, blah, 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 but we can pay you this money and we're taking these steps to become a better team. I wonder if they have more of a plan than they've already even done. And that if the Hawks are going to keep making these moves that we've seen this offseason already that have been great moves, in my opinion, great picks, I'm curious to see if they got one more trick up their sleeve that they're going to pull out either before the season starts or like right at the beginning of the season to get someone else big or relatively big. And then if they can get someone else that's kind of on that Gallo level, where maybe it's not an all-star player or something like that, or but it's someone who adds significant value to your team, I think that can definitely push them up to a 4 or 5 seed.
And going off of that, Sam, well, I definitely agree with you, Kevin. I'm I'm mainly just shooting for the stars right now, just because Trae Young, who knows what he's going to be like. He was fire last year with his shooting, and as John has said in the recently, just complete ass at defense, just like complete and utter trash. Just makes me want to vomit my brains out at how bad at defense he is. Anyway,
Trae Young, we still love.
Sam, with Kevin saying that, it kind of just sounds like the Hawks are missing that one final move. What do you think is that one final move that would really put you in, I guess, a hypothetical, like put you in the stands for every Hawks game? What would make you really behind them? What would they have to do?
So I think we talk about the Hawks a lot, but the thing we're missing that made them actually really get on the map, not just Trae Young, but John Collins was a very big factor.
Yeah.
And I think he has to go now. I think he's going to be asking a lot of money. I don't think if you're the Atlanta Hawks, I don't think you want to give that contract for someone. Look, we'll talk about it later, but BI shouldn't have gotten that money. Just played one great season. Most improved player means you were trash and you just got a little bit better. That's just me. Hey, you guys money, different story. But for me, John Collins is going to be asking similar money. I'm going to trade John Collins. For me, you need someone that doesn't really need the ball a lot. John Collins really need the ball. The person you need in his hands is Trae Young, obviously. But the Atlanta Hawks, what they did was a smart thing was they got shooters. They got people that can actually score on their own without Trae Young just dropping like 40 feet away and doing between the legs, between Trevor Ariza and stuff like that. We don't need that anymore. We're serious ball now, all right? Bogdanovich, phenomenal sign. If I was the Kings, I probably would have signed him just out of spite and then trade him. Get John Collins at that point. You could have got John Collins at that point if you want to do a sign trade. I'm not sure what would be the great fit. I'm stretching here. I don't know the value yet, but I would throw in a first-round pick and Kyle Kuzma to the Atlanta Hawks for John Collins and whatever makes it match. That's what I would do, all right? That's the missing factor. If you want to play team big, that's what we're doing here, all right? John Collins, let's get him to the Lakers, all right? Let's make it happen.
John, it seems like you have a few things that you want to get off your chest right now.
Kyle Kuzma?
Get Kuz. Hey, Lakers got nothing else, man. Come on. Man.
Yeah, they got nothing else.
On Caruso, we can throw him in there.
No. John Collins, I'm fine. I agree. Like, I do wonder long term, like, if he's the right guy to invest in for them, because they just have so much youth on their roster that I don't know if he's the one you want to tie a ton of money in. Granted, he's a really good player. He's a 20-10 guy. And if they were to trade him, I think they could get a lot for him. But I don't know. I'm kind of like, I think that at some point, even though they just got him, I think the one they should be trying to move is Clint Capella. Like,
dang.
Don't do Clint like that.
I do, because I don't think that, like, Clint Capella can't fucking guard Joel Embiid. Like, Clint Capella is a good player, and he's a solid defender, and he's like a good lob threat. But it's just like, I don't think he's on the same timeline as this team anymore, and I don't think that, like, I think that I'd be much more interested in seeing how Okongwu develops, because he's a guy who has that kind of like Bam Adebayo prototypical like body and like look to his game. And I feel like Capella's just going to take minutes from that. Granted, he'll be like better right now, but I think that that's someone who they could probably get more value out of. Because I'm a little weary of losing John Collins, and definitely not for fucking Kyle Kuzma.
Don't doubt this man. The man has a shoe deal, all right? He's serious business now.
Kyle Kuzma is incredibly marketable. But man, like that guy, I don't know. I feel like if Kyle Kuzma played on like the Charlotte Hornets, be like, oh, Kyle Kuzma, like,
Okay, I got you. Let's get DeRozan or Aldridge out of San Antonio. Let's take it. Let's get him. Help me help you here, all right? Let's get these old heads out of here. Atlanta wants to be good. Trae Young wants to be the greatest team to ever play the game somehow. I don't know. I don't know why you're in a win and out situation still, Atlanta. I mean, like, I know the GM and, operations, they're in trouble at this point, but that's on you guys. You guys fucked up a lot, all right? You guys fucked up for many years. You had a good chance with Budenholzer, Al Horford. When Kyle Korver was almost like all-star talent, like that's crazy. Think about that. Like Kyle Korver was all-star talent. Atlanta did some really good moves, but like I said, I think long-term, John Collins going to get his money. I just don't think Atlanta should pay because I think he's a higher trade value than what you're going to pay him for. As soon as he gets paid, I don't think he's going to be playing as well. That's my opinion, but
that's fair. Moving on, really quick question before we actually go on. If you guys had to because we were just talking about a shoe deal with Kyle Kuzma, if you guys had to have your own brand of shoe, who would you sign with, John?
Yeah, this is clearly a controversial choice in the pre-show chat, but I have to stick to my guns. Every time I play 2K and build my career player, every single time I sign with the stripes, baby. I go Adidas. And I understand that's controversial. I know that I am far from a sneakerhead, but if there's one thing that I know, it's that 3 diagonal stripes looks fucking sick. And that Nike swoosh cost like $35 when they bought that shit. Get that broke bitch shit out of here, you fucking Phil Knight fucking bastards from Oregon. You fucking.
If you guys want to know how much of a sneakerhead John is, I think John gets a new pair of shoes like once every few years.
I get a pair of shoes every single year once it starts to wear out. Currently, my shoes, if you look at the bottom of them, are almost entirely smooth.
Move brain.
All right, Kevin, what shoe would you go with?
Oh, I'm sellout all day. Jordan, big name, big brand.
Yeah,
sellout, 100%. You get a shoe deal?
Yep.
You're already selling out. You might as well go all in. You're right. Get your money.
Sam, who you got?
Look, both of those options were vomit worthy at that point. First off, fuck Jordan. I'm sorry. Jordan's a person, probably a swell guy. Brand is itself, fuck them. They're overpriced, not worth it for a piece of rubber at that point. But look, if we're talking about real sellouts here, look who has the most notable names. We have Giannis. We have Kobe, RIP my boy, LeBron James. What else do you need at this point? Checks over stripes, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not be, once again, delusional at this point.
That's fair. Fair enough. I'm gonna go with Under Armour as I always will. As I always will.
Stop it.
I don't know how Kevin is not picking his natural aligned brand of New Balance shoes.
Can we just confirm that Kevin is a dad shoe?
That is fair. Kevin does dress like a dad shoe for most of his life. Anyway, listen, I know we've been talking a bunch about the East. There is one deal that I really do want to touch on before we move on, and that is the Bam Adebayo signing of the $195 million. God, that's a lot of money. I really wish I even had a quarter of that. John, in your opinion, this signing, does this kind of change your view on the Heat possibly being a contender for Giannis?
It makes it a little more complicated for them. I feel like if they're going to get Giannis now, it's going to have to be through a sign and trade. Granted, I also think that you got to give Bam his money.
Yeah.
We saw what he did this year. You got to give him his money. But it makes it tough. It makes it tougher for them. They'll definitely have to be willing to move assets, and that could look like losing like Tyler Hero. It could look like losing probably open season on anyone that's not named like Bam Adebayo and maybe Jimmy
Butler.
Yeah, maybe he's also like 30 fucking 2 or some shit. Like Jimmy's a little old. If you can get Giannis, you do it. But I think that at this point, what that contract tells me is that Bam is the only one on that roster that is like 100%. No one can touch this guy. When it comes to Giannis.
That's totally fair. Kevin, as the resident, Milwaukee fan. Well, actually, you're a Lakers fan. You can whatever. But you did live in Milwaukee for quite a while. I do have a grief counselor ready for you, just in case Giannis does leave Milwaukee. Do you want me to give you that number now, or are you a little bit skeptical on Giannis even leaving the Bucks to begin with?
Yo, Giannis is loyal, and I think the Milwaukee front office is really scrambling right now to try to please him. They're like, "Oh, would you like a waiter? What do you want? Do you want us to clean your shoes every day? Do you want your own personal gym? Oh, what can we do, sir? For you to stay
they're just on the
small marketplace." They are. I think they're gonna do everything they can to make it work for him. And if we're hearing some rumors that he's not happy, I think they're gonna they might mix some things up there pretty quick to make sure that he stays. I would be surprised to see him go anywhere anytime soon.
That is totally understandable. Sam, with the Bogdan trade just going downhill real fast, are you on Kevin's side with this? Do you agree that Milwaukee? I mean, I'm sure Milwaukee's going to do whatever they can, but do you think whatever they can is enough?
And it's a hard discussion to have, because let me just ask you this: where do you want to live, Miami or Milwaukee? What do you at this point?
I feel like Giannis is a Milwaukee person just from personality. I don't think he would be going to the strip clubs with James Harden anytime soon.
Hey, look, Giannis is a different person. Do you know why? Did you see him open that PS5? He just tore apart that shit. He just tore apart the whole cover, the whole box. I was like, Giannis, what are you doing? That man's on a different world at this point. Look, for coming from a small market, it's just very hard to attract a player to that. It's easy from San Antonio's standpoint, just because the tax situation at that point, you're going to make hella money at that point. Luka's going to make mad money there. If you go to California, you're not paying that kind of stuff. Milwaukee's just not, it's not a sexy city, right? Kevin, we know, we lived there. It's gotten better, but in terms of being an NBA player, I don't think I want to live there. I'd rather take my veterans minimum and go party in Miami at that point. Let's just have a good time. That's why I'm here. Dion Waiters, hit me up. Let's just have a good time. I think the Milwaukee Bucks are trying their best. They clearly fucked up this Bogdan deal. They just assumed it was going to happen, and their Bogdan was just like, wait, did anyone actually tell me? I'm pretty sure he heard on Bleacher Report that he was going to get traded. Like, I'm pretty sure he had no idea this was going to happen. And then, we let him know. He's like, the bigger picture is, I'm curious what's happening in Atlanta. Like, why is Atlanta such an attractive location? But we'll say that for another day. I think the Bucks are trying everything they can. There's not many people left to really trade for. There's not many people that would, even if you want to do a sign trade, like who wants to go to Milwaukee? Like at that point, it's just not an attractive place to be in. New arena, we've seen it, Kevin. It's really nice. And why would you not want to play with a back-to-back MVP? But at that point, I think it's just, where do you want to live? Like I said, veterans minimum. I'll see you in Cancun at that point, but
that's totally fair. And before we get into the speed rounds, last one that is kind of blowing my mind as to why I do not think this is that big of a deal, but his name is a very widely known name. Boogie Cousins going to Houston. So I don't think this is a big deal. I do not think that this is a really huge deal. I think he has lost whatever he had completely due to injury. Not his fault at all. I think he's just been banged up one too many times, and I kind of think that he's done. I feel like he's washed up right now. I do not see this as being that big of a trade. John, you have a look of disagreement.
You know who sees Houston's offseason as being kind of a big deal? A certain pancake-loving, sneaker-hoarding, 6'5" forward PJ Tucker, who has been guarding centers for 30 cents on the dollar for like 2 years now. I'll tell you what. I don't think there's anyone in the country more excited that DeMarcus Cousins and Christian Wood are going to be Houston Rockets than PJ Tucker and probably PJ Tucker's trainer. That man has been through the ringer. I am very happy for him that he will not have to do that anymore. Playing for Tillman Fertitta's cheap fucking ass. It's so... PJ deserves better. He deserves more money. He's 35 years old. Could you imagine being 35 years old, going out on the floor, and your coach says, sorry, PJ, you're guarding Joel Embiid tonight. Are you kidding me?
Fuck that.
So, yes, I know that DeMarcus Cousins is washed. He's not very good, but he is massive. He is humongous, and they will be able to put him in the middle of the floor and say, stand here, for the love of God. Like, and also, you know what? At the end of the day, like, seriously, I think that him and Christian Wood are good signings for this team. Everyone in the world knows they need a big. They're not going to be playing Mike D'Antoni's system this year. It's going to be totally new under Steven Silas. James Harden is probably excited to see some people that are a little taller than him joining the fucking team. Like, I think that this is like, I think this is good. It's not anything spectacular. I think the Christian Wood thing is spectacular. I think that's a great signing.
Absolutely. I think we all would have to agree. Oh, Sam, do you agree with that? You gave a face really quickly.
Well, I like Christian. I think Christian Wood's getting phenomenal for like a potential, like, not now, but maybe in the next couple of years. He could be real all-star talent. I think he needs to be on his own team. I don't think he needs to be with a ball hogger, two ball hoggers really at this point with Russell Westbrook and James Harden. I don't think he can be as effective because we know that those two guys run, true ISO ball out of anyone in this league right now. And Christian Wood game, I think he could actually really be modeled. He's like not yet. He could be significantly easily better than Amari Stoudemire in terms of that. Running a pick and roll with Christian Wood would be a phenomenal thing. Think about the amount of lobs he would get. Like, it's easy points at this point. Like, it's definitely an upgrade from Clint Capella. I would agree there, but I just don't see him being like. It makes sense on paper, but I don't think it's going to work as well. I feel like he's going to ask for a trade personally before. I think he's going to get shipped out before James Harden because he's like, I want out of here, man. I'm not dealing with this bullshit.
Oh my God, the fucking fire in Sam's veins right now are just out of this world. Kevin, let's say hypothetically, Boogie's healthy. We're all happy that he's healthy, but do you actually see that being a legitimate thing? Do you actually see him being like legitimately healthy this season? And when I say healthy, I mean he's playing more games than he's sitting out.
I was going to say, I would be willing to bet that he doesn't play half the season. I would not be surprised if I would be extremely surprised if he plays more than half the season.
Does that make him valuable?
I don't think he is that valuable, but I think, like John said, you get him as your kind of backup big guy, and then when you have to put him out on the floor, you say, stand here, act like a big guy, try and guard the other big guy, and then that's it. And that's what you pay him for, and that's all you pay him for, and you hope he's healthy the whole time. He's not going to be healthy the whole time. But that's why I think Christian Wood is a good alternative on that same thing. I think you need to have Christian Wood. They couldn't have just picked up Cousins and expected it to be a cohesive team because, again, I think if they had PJ as their starting big man, that still would have been not great. I think Cousins adds a tiny bit of value. Nothing notable whatsoever. That's not going to change their seeding because they have Cousins or something like that. Like, I wish he wasn't as washed as he is, but he's fucking washed.
Yeah.
I think, I'll call my shot and I'll eat these words later in the year, but I think that DeMarcus Cousins will average 11, 7, and 2.5 this year. That's what I'm calling.
How many games though?
12 games.
12 games.
No. I think that, what we saw when he played for the Warriors is that the man cannot move laterally worth a damn. He's still huge, and he's going to collect rebounds when he's on the floor.
Yeah.
And he's still able to score from a few spots on the floor that the Rockets just didn't have access to from a big. And he's a smart pass. He is a good passing big man. Not great. He's not like Marc Gasol, but he's a good passing big man. I think there's value there. I don't think that he's going to be a big addition. But I think he's helpful.
For sure. I think a solid fit for him. I actually wanted him in Philly. I think that would actually be a solid fit. The thing he's never had is actually a good coach. I mean, let's be real. Sacramento fell apart. I mean, I like Dave Yeager personally, but that was just not a good fit, obviously, for many reasons. And went to New Orleans. Alvin Gentry, don't tell me he's good. All right, don't tell me he's good. I'm glad they fired his ass very quickly. But along with Doc Rivers, I think Doc Rivers can get something out of someone that's washed up like that. I think he can do something significant. Granted, the only thing Doc Rivers is good at is building big fives, and then that's basically it at that point. Then probably losing the semifinals at that point. But hey, that's a different story.
All right. I felt that shade a little bit. All right, so we're going to get into a speed round. I'm going to throw out some quick questions to you guys, and you're going to react to them. So why don't we get right into that? Which newly maxed out player forces their way out of their team first? This includes Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, De'Aaron Fox, Bam Adebayo, Brandon Ingram. John, go.
My pick is a young man named Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell, he's going to force his way out of Utah after another year of not making it to the Western Conference Finals. They won't even get close. Donovan is too good for this milquetoast ass city. He deserves to play somewhere that people are going to watch his games. He deserves to play somewhere where he's going to contribute to a championship level team. And I think that I take Donovan Mitchell is going to ask his way out pretty soon. They all say they want to stay. When they sign the contract. Donovan Mitchell is not going to stick around in Utah with fucking Rudy Gooby and his bullshit ass fucking play him off the floor playoff fucking series. Donnie is getting out of there in 2 to 3 years.
Donnie is leaving the Mormon state of Utah. Sam, who do you got?
Look, I was going to pick Donovan Mitchell. I'm going to do two things real quick. Donovan Mitchell, if you take Rudy Gobert out of the picture, what are we watching at this point? We're watching Mormons play basketball, watching Mitt Romney at this point. Look, nothing against anyone there, but if I'm Donovan Mitchell, I signed $200 million. Why the fuck am I in Salt Lake City? That's a good place to be. Going along John's lines, you don't win through this. When my boy Bogdanovich, the other one, is there, when Bojan Bogdanovic is there and he's your second highest scorer, that's not a good sign. The man's 33 and that's your leading scorer. Rudy Gobert, what the fuck are you doing? I know you're spreading the virus everywhere, but stop that. It's not good. It's not healthy. Mike Conley, washed. We all know that. He got very severely overpaid. But the real one is, I think it's an easy choice, De'Aaron Fox. The kid deserves way better. Fastest player in the NBA, probably has a lot of potential still. It's just in a very bad system. Luke Walton should not be a coach. I think he says more curse words than actual basketball strategy. He's coaching at this point. And De'Aaron Fox, we've seen him play. This kid can ball out. When Buddy Hield has a worse night, when my boy Bogey had a bad night, De'Aaron Fox has been the most consistent player. He probably deserves even more than what he can afford at this point because he is now the face of this organization, guaranteed now. With the rumors of Buddy Hield probably wanting out, Darren, you probably want out too. All right, let's send them Dallas. I think that sounds good.
John's happy for it. Kevin, who do you got?
I agree 100%. Both of those are my two first reactions. De'Aaron Fox, especially, you have that much talent. You're that fast, that quick, that he has everything that someone should have in his position, and he's stuck on the fucking cage. I am so sorry. And if he knows anything, he should get out of there as fast as possible. At least Donovan Mitchell's on a team that has a winning record most years. But at the same time, I think Donovan Mitchell could also use to not be in fucking Utah again. Jesus. Otherwise, I think the other three, there's no reason for them to leave. Brandon Ingram, yeah, he's on a losing team, but I think he knows he's way overvalued for that contract.
Thank you.
Like, I don't care if I'm losing every year. And then Bam and Jason Tatum are on like top tier teams. So why would they leave? Why would they leave if they're on like late playoff contending teams?
Not to mention the contracts that they signed.
That's it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just because of the contracts that they sign, I'm 100% thinking the same thing, Kevin. De'Aaron Fox, you are in the correct state. You are not in the right city, sir. You might wanna figure that one out. So next question, we have Brian Windhorst reported that AD's contract is taking so much time potentially because of Giannis. AD and LeBron might be trying to structure contracts to be able to bring in another max star. Which current NBA star will be a Laker next? Sam, I will start with you.
Oh, this is tough. I love a good Trae Young there. It's not going to happen because he's a face. Why would you want to go join LeBron at that point? Players you need are people who have no sense of identity at this point. And for me, I think it has to be Chris Paul. Chris Paul is a perfect fit for this team. What they're missing is actual playmaking ability. I don't think LeBron wants to be pure playmaker every time. I don't think they don't have a guard. They don't really have a guard. They have Dennis Schroeder, don't get me wrong. I think that's actually that's a huge improvement. Rondo was going to be very washed up the next season. But I think what they need here is someone that can carry their own. And that's something that Chris Paul can easily do, as we saw. I know Kevin's not vibing with this right now, but I think Kevin could agree that his Lakers getting Chris Paul would be a huge improvement at this point.
I agree.
I don't think Kevin would say that since he shit on Chris Paul so hard last week. So,
I think he was just overrated on the Suns. That's all I said.
Yeah, the Suns, sure. Kevin, why don't you continue with what Sam was saying? Well, who do you think is going to be the next Laker star?
I think you gotta go with someone like a Chris Paul type, where it's a playmaking point guard, basically, like someone who can actually pass the ball and who actually can get the ball around and doesn't need to hold the ball for long periods of time. I do actually think Chris Paul isn't a bad one. I think the biggest one, if they could get it, I don't think this is right away, but I think it's maybe in a couple of years. I think if they could somehow get the money for Luka, I think that's someone that's the type of player they would really, really want, is someone who can pass the ball all the time, someone who can drive up mid-range, and then they're a dynasty. Then they're a dynasty and they never lose. Period.
All right, John, what you got?
Okay. No. Luka Doncic will not be going there. Giannis will not be going there because he will be going to the Dallas Mavericks in a year. And no, the answer is that LA and their fans love a very specific type of player. This is a player who is inarguably not that fucking good, but is massively overhyped by the people who like to watch him. And that's why the next star on the Los Angeles Lakers is going to be a certain Mr. Zach LaVine.
Stop it.
Zach LaVine.
Get the fuck out of there.
LaVine will be on the Los Angeles Lakers. He will fill the void that is left by Kyle Kuzma when he is inevitably traded to
Chicago.
Unfortunately, the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like they'll probably try to get a point guard. I think that Zach LaVine as a Laker makes a lot of sense as just ratings poll and as a guy who can score for them that doesn't need to play defense. Most likely, I would expect actually, like we said, De'Aaron Fox is going to make his way out of Los Angeles. Or not out of Sacramento. I think he makes his way to the Los Angeles Lakers at some point.
Absolutely, I like that. And
a quick reduction instead of Chris Paul, because that's probably not going to happen because of the money. Kyle Lowry, can we get Kyle Lowry over there?
Kyle Lowry.
I was thinking
very
of that.
solid fit for this team. I just thought of that. I was like, who are we missing? I was like, Toronto has somebody that's not Spicy P, and I'm like, Kyle Lowry. Like, what are we doing at this point?
He fits the thickness. The thickness.
Yeah.
Hey, if we're team thick, how many C's? Like 5 at that point?
Yeah,
so
5 C's.
I think Kyle Lowry would be a great fit for this team. You know, him and LeBron would be like the ultimate duo. It's like two enemies finally joining hands and be like, let's just win 10 titles together.
Yeah.
Let's just do it. Let's they'll be looking.
LeBron's not going to be there forever. They're going to need to figure out something soon. I don't know.
You know what? I'm going to agree with John. I do think LaVine goes to the Lakers. I'm going to disagree with Sam in saying that I think LeBron will be totally fine with being the playmaker. I think he's going to be totally okay with that. He's going to be passing the ball to LaVine constantly. And I think under LeBron's supervision, LaVine will think twice before shooting a shit-ass shot.
No, he will not.
He won't. But after that game, you will definitely see LeBron, just tearing him apart, which should inevitably happen. Next question. Boys, which player are we the most excited to see who is on the new team right now? Kevin, who do you got?
I don't know. At least for
good start.
For singular players, I don't have like one person that I really want to see. Like, I want to see the Hawks young roster. I think that's the roster I'm most excited about because they got so many like new people and people who are already young and didn't have much of an identity. I think that is going to be the roster overall that I'm most excited to see. But singular person, I think Wiseman, I'm interested to see if he can live up to the hype. But otherwise, I think, again, like we've said a couple of times, this draft was a lot of just like mediocre people, like people that were pretty good but not great. So I'm not like really hyped about any one person. I think the Hawks are the roster that I want to see the most, but otherwise I'm like,
Okay, fair enough. Sam, who do you got?
That's tough. I got like a 3-way split. Obviously, Bogdanovich would be fun. I won't talk about him. I'm split between Montrezl Harrell, but I think I'm going to skip that too. I think I'm going to talk about Kelly Oubre. I think that'll be a very interesting fit in terms of what the Warriors really need, and that's someone that can just kind of slash. They never had a slasher, and that's something Kelly Oubre can easily add. I mean, we saw a resurgence with him in the Phoenix Suns. Like, that team was actually very interesting. Wasn't good. It was interesting. When they're throughout the whole season, and even through the bubble, it was a very interesting team. I know Devin Booker's obviously the face for this, but I think the sleeper is Kelly Oubre at that point because, so it's sad that we lose Clay. If Clay was there, that team could be very dangerous. Not just, we have the OG3 back, but you still have a Wiggins who can produce something. But Oubre from actually both as an all-arounder at this point. I'm not saying he's strong at both sides, but I think he's actually a solid fit for what the Warriors were missing, and they don't have the defensive presence now. They lost Klay Thompson, who was a very good on-ball defender, and Kelly Oubre fits that mold very easily. The only difficulty would be, can he fit that role, in terms of when you have the juggernauts of like a Curry, you have the guy that yells at you with Draymond, and then you have cool guy Klay, just talking you up on the bench. Can he handle that kind? Because he was the guy in Phoenix at that point in terms of the slash game.
Absolutely. I like that one. I like Kelly Oubre. Really quickly before I give this to John, I'm going to just say I am super pumped to watch Chris Paul make Kevin eat his words. I don't think anybody is more pumped about that than John and I. John, who are you excited to watch?
Easy. Garrett Temple, Chicago Bulls.
Yes.
No. We've talked about him already. It's Christian Wood. I'm excited about Christian Wood. Christian Wood made my fantasy basketball team soar. One of my legendary free agent pickups. Christian Wood is going to be exactly what James Harden needs. If he's going to play this year in Houston, he needs a guy like Christian Wood who can shoot. He can go up for lobs. He can play defense. I think this guy is in a situation where I personally think he's going to be able to shine, regardless of Russell Westbrook. Throw him to the wind. I think that Christian Wood is in for a good year. Not like Western Conference all-star level player, but I think he's still going to be able to go out there and put up at least Clint Capella numbers with a more versatile offensive game. I'm all about Christian Wood.
I like that. I think we're all very excited for that, and I'm sure John will be drafting him on his fantasy team, just like last year. Anyway, you know what, boys? That was a great episode. Thank you all so much for coming to the show, for listening to us. Again, you can follow us on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Those are where we are most commonly listened to, as well as Anchor. You could also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the Deep 3 Pod, as well as email us any questions that you might have or anything that you would want us to answer on the show at the deep3pod@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much for coming to the show. Have a great night. Peace.
Basketball is cool.